Welcome to a special live episode of the Sumud Podcast, recorded at ADC's ArabCon 2025 in Dearborn, Michigan.
On this episode of the Sumud Podcast, we uplift, empower, and amplify Rula Jabril.
Gaza is a symbol of failed Western civilized nations, but also it's the revival of the global South.
Francesca Ablanezi.
There is not such a thing in international law as the right to exist. There is not. There is the right of the people to exist.
Hani Al-Madhoun.
It will take a lot more than tanks and bombs to separate the peoples from their land. This is not just an empty Arab slogan. This is real.
Mahdi Hasan.
There are journalists in Gaza. They are Palestinian journalists. The Israelis want to smear them as terrorists, but they are journalists doing journalism in the most difficult circumstances.
Susan Ablahawa.
I think if Americans really understood how much is being done for this colony, this racist apartheid state, I think they'd rise up in arms.
Dr. Jill Stein.
We need to forget the lesser evil and fight for the greater good, like our lives depend on it.
Alana Hadid.
What we've been doing a lot lately is boycotting, but there's not a lot of conversation about once you've boycotted something, where you go. We wanted to create a space where we had done the vetting for you.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud. All about humanity, so this right here for everyone. Uplift, amplify, empower everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whatever time zone you're living in, it's time for Sumud.
Visit sumudpod.com to subscribe and connect with us on social media. Consider supporting our work through a contribution on the Support Us page.
Hi, everyone. My name is Janan Matari. I'm a Palestinian storyteller and producer. You may have seen my face and online lessons pop up at some point on one of your social media feeds. I hope you're enjoying the ArabCon conference. And while I wish I could be there in person, I'm excited to virtually usher in this next segment as we learn the importance of storytelling through art and music. As I'm sure you all know, storytelling has always been our lifeline as Palestinians. It's how we've preserved our history, carried our culture, and held on to our truth through decades of displacement and attempts at erasure. As Palestinians, it's important to recognize that our stories are more than just memories. They are acts of resistance. They remind us of who we are, of where we come from, and the future that we are fighting for. Storytelling keeps us rooted. It keeps us connected. And it ensures that our future generations inherit not just the trauma of displacement, but also the beauty, resilience, and joy of our people. The Sumud Podcast was started to carry these stories forward, to give voice to our experiences, and even through censorship and shadow banning, Sumud Podcast remains and reminds the world that Palestinians are still here, still creating, still storytelling, even through trauma and silencing attempts. On this episode of the Sumud Podcast, we uplift, empower, and amplify Dana Salah. Dana is a Jordanian Palestinian singer, songwriter, and producer known for her blend of traditional Palestinian folklore with contemporary global sounds and Arabic lyrics, a genre which she calls Falahi Pop. Through her music, she champions cultural preservation and highlights narratives of resilience and liberation. Please help me welcome your host, Ed Hasan, and tonight's guest, Dana Salah.
So I'm going to hype you up a little bit here, okay? You're a graduate of Duke University in econ major. I failed econ miserably. I don't know how you did that. You're a DJ, producer, singer, songwriter. You worked in Jay-Z's studio. You wrote music for Love and Hip Hop, the TV show. You had a song featured in Maybelline. I didn't know it was makeup, apparently. It's a makeup commercial. You modeled for Bobby Brown, the makeup artist, not the 80s singer. And you are a Billboard charting music and radio hit-making machine, which is amazing. Here's the thing, everybody. She's been doing this for 10 years.
Just gave my age away.
Actually, I'm sorry. Now 11 years this past March. But many people think that you started 2 years ago, which is not true. So I want to really open with this. First and foremost, success is resistance. Being a woman in itself in today's society is resistance. Being an Arab woman is resistance. Being a Palestinian is triumph. And that deserves a round of applause for you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
So as I was preparing for this interview, I just did a little research, just a little bit.
Just a little.
I realized two things about you. First of all, the depth of Dana Salah is just amazing. But your story is not just a single book with chapters, but it's a library of many books. And you've really demonstrated a masterclass in how to pivot and reinvent yourself as an artist. Speaking of books and pivots, the first one that you've ever made, really, let's call it your first book, was about King Deco. And that was your first pivot. King Deco, that persona, what did it give you that Dana Salah couldn't give you at that time?
So King Deco, for those of you who don't know, was my moniker when I was making music in English. Right after college, I moved to New York and I started songwriting. And for me, I think King Deco gave me the separation I needed from the girl who grew up in Amman, bint Ahilha, to be able to be the artist who moved to New York City, worked at Jay-Z's studio, did all of that songwriting, put out music. It kind of gave me a freedom that at that time I didn't feel like I had. As classic Arab parents, they were very worried that I had decided to, graduate with an econ major and pivot and do music by myself in New York City. So, like any other parent, they were worried. They didn't understand what I was doing. So King Deco kind of gave me the freedom I needed and the confidence to be able to pursue a career in music.
So you said to yourself, Queen, I'm the king of the world here, and you changed it to King. Why did you do that?
So female empowerment is, a subject that's very close to my heart. It's in a lot of the messaging in my music. And I felt like as soon as I put King in front of the name Deco, which was my DJing nickname, I felt like everything kind of came together. And it's kind of like a gender neutralizing term.
Okay. Well, you've made it. It's your term now. So do you feel that music chose you before you chose music?
I would say yeah, for sure. My mom and my aunt, I always tell this story, but they used to tell me that when I was really young, before I could walk, before I could talk, I would be in the baby chair watching The Sound of Music, which is a musical. And right before the Marionettes song, the yodeling song would come out, apparently I would just have like a fit out of excitement. And they knew from then that I was musically inclined. And
Snow White too, right?
Snow White, all of the Disney movies.
We banned Disney though, bad Disney.
Which is crazy, right? All of it is ironic. Even I don't know what it is, like affinity to The Sound of Music and that storyline, I think it all ties together. And even now when, I was playing Ya Tal3een very early on in 2023 to somebody, and they were listening to the verses and they said, oh, this reminds me of something. I was like, I don't know what this guy's gonna bring up. We're at this random studio in the UAE. And he goes, let me YouTube it for you. And he pulls up the yodeling marionette song from The Sound of Music. And the melody was, it's like, high on the hills, da 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 da. And then last night I had a dream in the land of olive trees. Yeah, I don't know. I think everything is tied. Should we make Ed sing for us?
No, yeah. What part of your identity do you think is still too raw to sing about?
I think after what we've all gone through the past 2 years, I don't think there's anything that I think is too raw to sing about or talk about. I made Ya Tal3een from a place of, hopelessness and pain. And it got me through one of the biggest writer's blocks of my career. I wasn't able to make music after October 7th and the images that we were seeing. I was very stuck. And then my fans online, were reposting this little cover that I put out in 2021. And that song just flowed out of me. And it was very honest. I wrote most of it half asleep. So I think when you're able to express your emotions around something like that, everything else just kind of seems trivial.
Can you just walk us through that moment, or you knew that song was the one you want to go with?
There wasn't one. I was responding to my community online, and I created I opened up my old laptop with the old vocals from the cover I'd posted, and the song just flowed out of me. My producer, No One, his name is No One Tunes, shout out. He took my session after I'd kind of pieced everything together and helped me really put the whole record together and finish it. And I just put it out. There was no release plan, there was no video, there was nothing. I put it out, and then my manager at the time sent it around to a few people and kind of forgot about it and continued trying to make music and trying to write songs. I wrote another one called Shumasad that also used the same Palestinian folkloric algorithm of coding songs. I did that in my original song, Shumasad. So like slowly, I was able to start making music again. And 6 months later, someone had sent me that the song was being used everywhere and giving people hope. And when I performed it all throughout 2024, I felt like it created the space of healing at my live shows for fans and, friends that came out. And then slowly, as the tone of our resistance changed, I feel like I perform it this year. And it's no longer a song that just, embodies sadness and grief and hope, but it's real empowerment. And that's been amazing to see that transformation happen, and the work that we've been doing, really make a difference.
You've got to experience this sort of dissonance when it's great people are singing your music, but at the same time there's a genocide and they're using it at protests, for example. How do you sort of reconcile that dissonance?
I don't think I've been able to yet. It's a really tough thing to see. I've been incorporating my Palestinian heritage and culture since I was King Deco back in New York. Every time I would have radio interviews or music videos, I would always have little pictures of, Palestine, Nablus, Jerusalem in my videos. I was always dressed in Tatreez. At the time before we boycotted Disney, I was doing interviews there and performances, and I was fully dressed in Tatreez. My heritage has been a part of my art for a very long time.
You made a creative switch from writing to English to Arabic. Can you walk me through that experience or that creative process?
I think it was, by God's hand. It wasn't planning on it. If you had told me in 2019 that I would be making music in Arabic, I would have, been like, really, how? So, I started off, I had been in the States at that point for about 10 years. I got stuck in Michigan here during COVID, and, it's really the heart of Arab America. And I think one thing all of us share, being far away from al-Blad, is this ishq and this longing to be back home and to feel connected with our land. And I think during COVID, I really connected with that. So by 2021, I decided to move back to Jordan, and I got connected to a producer there, and we started making music. I, had made the decision I still wanted to continue making music because a lot of my plans fell through during COVID. And, we finished the melody, we finished the beat and everything, and we were about to start writing lyrics, and he was like, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm writing lyrics." And he goes, "No, we're doing this in Arabic." And I was like, "What? Shu?" And we did. And it was me, him, and Google Translate at the time. And, slowly your Arabic gets better and you practice, and now it's second nature.
Do you feel you're giving a voice in a Palestinian way that writing in English never could?
Yeah. I was born and raised in Amman. I was raised as an Arab girl. There were a lot of things that I couldn't say in my English music that I didn't realize were things I wanted to say. So even something as simple as a love song, saying da'u al-ba, in Weno I say, تلت الدنيا تطلب فينا. Basically, when they come to your house and they ask for you can't say that in English. They're not going to get it. Yeah. It's going to be like, "Oh, arranged marriages?" And you're like, "No." So there's a lot that I wanted to express. But now I'm feeling the reverse, So I feel like, with our movement and with resistance, we have a lot of supporters who don't speak Arabic, who are from different communities. And, in Ya Tal3een, I really felt like I wanted to send a message to them as well. So that's what the English verse does. And I'm currently working on an album. So there's both languages in this one.
But when you wake up in the morning or you're getting ready, how are you singing in your head? Is it in Arabic or English?
Probably a little bit of both.
A little bit of both, yeah.
Or none. Maybe sometimes it's just melodies.
Yeah. And do you see your songs as personal therapy or history as melody?
I think a little bit of both. I'm not really the songwriter who walks into the studio and is like, "This is what I'm feeling today and this is what I'm going to write about." Usually it's like a message that'll come to me, or sometimes I just write and then I look back and I'm like, "Oh, that's what that was about. That was that situation," or "That was about that person." So I just kind of let it flow and go where it needs to go.
And do you view your music as a form of resistance or creative resistance?
100%. I think it's our job as a community now, whether we're in the arts or just in any industry, for us to just exist and thrive and show the world who we are as a people, that we're a people who love life and we're good at what we do, and we're full of love. And I think everyone in every industry needs to stand their ground and do that.
Yeah, well, you're leading the way, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
So after October 7th, did your music change quite a bit?
Yeah.
How did it change? Yeah.
I had that huge writer's block, and then I wrote Ya Tal3een, and I think all of us have changed as people in so many ways. And I wasn't able to create the same happy Ghazali Weno songs that I had been making for a very long time. And I felt like a lot of things just kind of integrate for me. So there was, the King Deco persona, and there was the Dana Salah, who grew up in Amman, was part of, that community. And I felt like the darkness that I felt after October 7th, even though, this has been happening for 77 years now, and the lightness that I felt when I first started making Arabic music, I felt those two integrate, and I felt, my two identities integrate. And I felt like after Ya Tal3een and after Shu Ma Sar, everything after that has kind of changed. And I feel like it's a more grounded approach to making music. And I think it started, so for those of you who don't know, I have a song called Shu Ma Sar. It's this really upbeat. I put it out in 2020.
Maybe sing a little bit of it, so they know which one you're talking about? Maybe, yeah.
شو ما صار زينا زي فخار نقسى تحت النار كل للآهات الهامي كل للآلام أغاني. And then, so after, October, I released another version that I sang in Qatar, and it was a slower, darker version. And I felt like Shu Ma Sar is kind of the transition point of my music kind of taking a new shape. And then Bint Bladak, my new single, I think is the first one where I feel all of those things have been integrated.
But did your music really change, or did it reveal what was already there?
I would say a little bit of both. Okay. I think definitely I found a voice that was always there. I found my voice that was both, the King Deco and the Dana Salah. But I think just experiencing what we experience, it's hard not to change as a person, and my music is just an extension of me. So it was bound to change as well.
And your grandfather was forced to flee Haifa in 1948.
Yep.
Talk about him and his influence on your life and your music.
So it's funny. So my grandfather died October 7th, 2010. And it was weird. I was falling asleep one night and I was thinking about him. We were very close. I always knew he was a huge Palestinian advocate, but I never knew the details of the work he did. But it was October 2024, and I was falling asleep, and I remember just thinking, gosh, I feel his presence so much these days with, my shows that I've been doing, shows in London and Amsterdam, bringing our community together. I felt his presence, and I said, it's weird, didn't he die around this time? And I had to Google it, and it turned out he died October 7th. But I feel, a lot of the people I work with, Tamid is one of them, he always says, your ancestors are flowing through you and through your DNA. And I really do feel that, and I really felt his presence a lot recently.
Do you remember any stories that he may have told you when you were younger?
So I remember stories of, him fleeing Haifa in 1948 and, moving to Nablus afterwards, and then after that to Jordan. I know he was a foreign minister at one point. He was an attorney general at another point. And people would always just tell me he was always sticking up for Palestinians, even if it was his neck on the line. And I think that's something we can all learn from.
Yeah. So he sort of still lives in your music.
I think he does. Yeah.
So if one of your songs were to outlive you for 100 years and carry Palestine with it, which one would you want it to be?
I would say Weno Ya Tal3een or Bint Bladak. And if I had to pick one part, I would maybe hope the the lyrics in English from Ya Tal3een.
Okay.
Yeah.
Amazing.
The last night I had a dream.
You want to think that a little bit too? Too much?
Ed's been trying to get me to sing, and I'm like, well, I'm singing tonight.
You want her to sing, right? You don't want to hear me talk, right? Right, Tamer? We're Tamer, right?
All right. Last night I had a dream in the land of olive trees. From the river to the sea, my people tasted freedom. Soon those hellish skies turn to blue, and starry nights as our voices start to rise. We're ending an apartheid. Do you guys know the rest? Hold on. Just a little longer, we're going home. Just a little longer, hold on. Glory's round the corner, we're going home with our waving flag.
So I mentioned backstage, my twin daughters were texting me like crazy. Did you interview her yet? Did you interview her yet? They invariably look up, I mean, they're going to always look up to you and everything that you've accomplished, but there are many Palestinian kids out there who look up to you and have heard your music. Specifically for the young girls, what would your message be for them?
Be who you are authentically. Don't listen to anyone who tells you there are limitations or boundaries, or that you have to be a certain way or act a certain way in order to exist in this world. And just be authentically who you are.
Yeah, my friend. And I got to ask you this. If we go back to the 15-year-old Dana, what would that message be, or what would you actually want to change about that 15-year-old person?
I think I would tell her the exact same thing I would tell your daughters.
Okay, great. You have any new music coming out?
I do. I'm working on an album. I just released a single called Bint Bladak with a music video. And then I have one more single coming out this year called Dori Durek, which is, in my opinion, a female empowerment anthem. But who knows? I always say that, and then, you know, men end up loving the songs more than women, so I love that.
And I heard a rumor that you have a clothing line.
I had just launched a merch line, yes. It's actually outside. All proceeds go to Taboo Club. This is a boys and girls club in Egypt for women and children who fled Gaza, who aren't able to integrate into the school systems. I went and I visited them when I was in Cairo working on my album. And, you know, really, it's just such a beautiful place. And, you know, the moms were telling me how, like, you know, they're like, please help us keep this place open. It gives us somewhere to go. It gives us somewhere to heal. So, you know, with every merch drop, I'm going to pick an organization to help out. And for the first one, I really wanted it to be Taboo Club.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and they have a stand outside too.
And I think you have some free merch you want to pass out.
Oh yeah, you guys ready? This was Ed's idea, so thank you, Dr. Ed, for supporting.
No, of course.
Thank you. How do you want to do this?
I'm going to see how far you can throw.
Oh gosh, people always make fun of my throwing. Okay, so this one says Muftah died. It's from Ya Tal3een. Okay, you guys ready? Oh boy. And then this one is Bueno. Oh boy. Wow. Throw it. Landed on my team. Okay. And then Shuma Saad. You guys ready? Thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Dana.
Thank you for having me. This was really such
amazing.
A pleasure.
Thank you all, everybody. I just wanted to give it a shout out, if you don't mind, to Ihab, the producer of the podcast, and Alat and Mejda, who's been very helpful. You know, we faced a lot of resistance with the podcast. Recently, we don't want to celebrate this, but this shows you that our story is being heard. We recently received the Silver YouTube Award, which is a big deal. And why I'm proud of that, I made them write Palestine on that award.
Woo!
Thank you so much, Dana.
Thank you for having me.
Listen, stay tuned, cause it's time for some mood.